The alarm screamed through the research station like a wounded animal, dropped his coffee and ran toward the docking bay with everyone else. His heart pounded in his chest as he pushed through the crowd of scientists and crew members. "What happened?" he shouted over the noise. "Crashed ship on the surface," someone yelled back, picking up one life sign. The station called Horizon's Edge floated in the darkness of space, orbiting a green and blue moon that humans had discovered only 6 months ago. Worked here as a studying alien life forms. But in all his years of work, he had never seen anything like what they brought back that day. The rescue team returned 3 hours later. Their faces were white with fear. The team leader, a large blue alien named, had claw marks across his chest plate. His armor was dented and scratched. "We found her in the wreckage," said, his voice shaking. "Female, unknown species, she's not stable." They had put the survivor in a containment cell, the strongest one on the station. Watched through the thick glass window, his breath caught in his throat. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The alien woman sat in the corner of the cell, her body pressed against the walls. Her skin was pale with strange markings that glowed red like hot metal. The markings ran down her arms and across her face in patterns that seemed to pulse with light. She had features that looked almost human, but her eyes were larger, more like a cat's eyes. Her hands ended in sharp claws, and could see old scars covering her arms and legs. "Her name?" asked quietly. "We don't know," said the station's medical officer. She stood beside, her arms crossed. "She won't let anyone close enough to run a translator program. Every time someone approaches, she attacks." As if hearing them, the woman in the cell suddenly turned her head. Her glowing eyes locked onto. A low growl came from her throat, a sound that made his skin cold. "Back away from the glass," warned. "She's stronger than she looks." Over the next 2 days, the station tried everything. Sent in security drones with sedatives. The woman destroyed them in seconds, her movements faster than cameras could track. Pieces of metal and broken circuits littered the floor of her cell. They brought in an empath from the species who could read emotions and send calming thoughts. Stood outside the cell and reached out with her mind. The results were immediate and horrible. Screamed and collapsed, blood running from her nose. She spent the next 3 days in the medical bay, unconscious. "What did she see?" asked as they stood over his bed. Checked the readings on her medical tablet. Her face was grim. Pain, terror, said it was like touching fire made of pure fear. That woman has been through something terrible, something that broke her mind. The station commander, a strict human woman named, called a meeting. Everyone sat around the conference table with tired faces. "We can't keep her like this," said. "She needs medical attention. Those wounds on her body are infected, but we can't treat her if she won't let us near." "Send her back to the surface," someone suggested. "It's not our problem." No, surprised himself by speaking. Everyone looked at him. "We can't do that. She's scared, not dangerous. Can't you see the difference?" Laughed a harsh sound. "Scared? She put 3 of my security team in the medical bay. She broke through reinforced walls. That's not fear, human, that's violence." But shook his head. He had spent the last 2 days watching video recordings of the woman. He studied every movement, every reaction. Others saw a wild animal, but saw something different. "She never attacks first," he said. "Watch the videos again. Every single time someone moves toward her first, she's reacting, defending herself. And look at how she sits. She always keeps her back to the wall. She protects old injuries with her hands. She's not wild. She's protecting herself from something." The room went quiet, leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying she's been hurt before. Badly. Maybe for a long time. Everyone who approaches her probably reminds her of whoever hurt her. She can't tell the difference between help and harm anymore." Nodded slowly. "That would explain reaction. Post-traumatic stress that's severe could create a psychic feedback loop." "So what do we do?" asked. "We can't leave her to die, but we can't help her either." Took a deep breath, his hands were sweating. "Let me try." The room erupted in protests. Stood up, his large frame towering over the table. "Absolutely not," the security chief said. "She'll kill you in seconds." "Maybe," said, "but maybe not. I want to try a different approach. No sedatives, no restraints, no forcing anything, just patience." Stared at him for a long moment. Finally, she sighed. "You have 3 days," she said. 3 days to show some progress. If nothing changes, we sedate her by force and figure out medical treatment later. Understand?" Nodded, his heart raced with fear and something else. Hope, maybe. That night, reviewed all the data they had recovered from the crashed ship. The ship's computer was damaged, but some files remained. What he found made his stomach turn. The woman species had been hunted across the galaxy, captured, sold, used as labor slaves because of their strength and speed. The files showed images of beings like her in chains, in cages, being beaten and broken. The crashed ship wasn't an accident. She had stolen it. She had been running. Looked through the glass at the woman in the cell. She sat in the same corner, her glowing markings pooling red with fear and anger. Old scars covered her body like a map of pain. How long had she been running? How many years had she spent being hurt by every hand that touched her? "I'll show you," whispered to the glass. "Not everyone wants to hurt you. Some of us just want to help." The woman's eyes met his through the glass. For just a moment her markings flickered to a different color. Orange, like a question. Then red again, always red. Went to his quarters and prepared. Tomorrow he would enter that cell. Tomorrow he would try something that everyone thought was impossible. Tomorrow he would teach a broken soul that gentleness existed in the universe. He just hoped he would survive long enough to prove it. The door to the containment cell hissed open. Stepped inside, his hands empty and visible. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. The woman was already watching him. Her glowing markings flared bright red. A warning, a threat. Her body coiled like a spring ready to snap. Didn't look at her directly. He had learned from studying animal behavior that direct eye contact felt like aggression. Instead, he walked slowly to the far wall, 20 meters away from her corner. He sat down on the cold floor, his back against the wall, and opened a book. "I'm going to read," he said softly in Korean. "You don't have to listen, you don't have to do anything. I'm just going to sit here." The woman growled. The sound raised every hair on his arms, but he didn't move. He kept his eyes on the book and began to read aloud. It was a collection of old Korean poetry. His grandmother had given him the book years ago. The words flowed like water, gentle and rhythmic. Didn't know if the woman understood any of it. He didn't care. The point wasn't the words. The point was the tone, the pattern, the lack of threat. Hours passed. His voice grew tired, but he kept reading. The woman stayed in her corner, watching him with those huge, glowing eyes. Her markings slowly shifted from bright red to a duller red. Still angry, still afraid, but maybe a little less intense. When his voice finally gave out, stood up slowly and walked to the door. He didn't look back. He left the cell without a word. Outside was waiting with a medical scanner. "Well, you're still alive," she said, running the scanner over him. "That's something." "Day 1 complete," said. His throat was raw from talking. "This is crazy, you know that," said, but her voice was soft, not angry. "Is already talking about ending the experiment early." "Tell her to give me the full 3 days," said, "please." The next morning, returned to the cell. This time, he brought food. Not for him, for the woman. He placed a tray of different fruits and proteins halfway across the room, then returned to his usual spot against the wall and started reading again. The woman stared at the food. Her markings flickered between red and orange. Orange, had started to notice, seemed to mean curiosity or confusion. She didn't trust it. She thought it might be a trap. ignored the tray and kept reading. His voice filled the cell with soft Korean syllables. He read about mountains and rivers, about seasons changing, about a crane that learned to dance. Hours later, when stood to leave, he glanced at the tray. The food was gone. Progress. Days blurred together, fell into a routine. Enter the cell, sit against the far wall, read aloud. Sometimes he brought food. Sometimes he brought medical supplies and tended to small cuts on his own hands, showing her what healing looked like, showing her that touch could be gentle even when it hurt. The woman watched everything. Slowly, so slowly almost missed it, she moved closer. Not much, just a few meters, but it was movement toward him, not away. The station crew thought he was wasting time, heard them talking in the hallways. It's been 4 days, nothing's changed. She's still just as dangerous. This is stupid, we should just force the issue. But defended him. She argued within the commander's office and heard her voice through the walls. He's making progress, can't you see it? She's eating, she's moving. She hasn't attacked him once. Because he's not doing anything, snapped back. We need actual medical data. We need to examine her, treat those wounds. They're getting worse. If we force it, we'll break whatever trust is building. Give him more time. Somehow convinced to extend the deadline. Got a full week instead of 3 days. On day 6, something changed. Was reading from his book when he heard a sound. Not a growl, something else. A softer noise, almost like a question. He looked up carefully. The woman had moved into the light for the first time. She wasn't hiding in shadows anymore. Her markings were orange and yellow mixed together, colors he had never seen from her before. She was looking at his book. "You want to see it?" asked softly. He held up the book, showing her the cover. It had a picture of a tiger on it, an old Korean painting. The woman's markings pulsed. Orange, yellow, then a flash of something blue. His heart jumped. Blue seemed calmer than the other colors. He set the book down on the floor between them and pushed it gently toward the middle of the room. Then he returned to his spot and waited. The woman stared at the book for a long time. Finally, moving so fast almost missed it, she darted forward, grabbed the book, and retreated to her corner. She held it like it might explode. Her clawed hands turned the pages carefully. She couldn't read Korean, but she looked at every page, every image. Her markings shifted through colors like a rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, blue, purple, back to orange. Smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in days. "You can keep it," he said. "It's yours now." From that day forward, the woman always had the book near her. She touched it sometimes, running her claws along the pages. It seemed to calm her. On day 9, disaster and breakthrough happened at the same time. Was entering the cell when his arm caught on a sharp piece of metal near the door. Pain shot through him. Blood ran down his hand, dripping onto the floor. "Ah, damn," he muttered. He grabbed a bandage from his pocket and wrapped his hand quickly. It wasn't deep, just messy. When he looked up, the woman was standing. Not crouching, not hiding. Standing in full view, her markings flashing rapidly between colors. Froze, was she about to attack? But the woman wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the blood on the floor. Her markings settled into a pattern he had never seen. Blue and purple mixed together, pulsing in waves. She took a step toward him, then another. His mind screamed at him to run, but he forced himself to stay still. His hand throbbed with pain, but he didn't move. The woman stopped 3 meters away. She stared at his bandaged hand. Her markings pulsed that strange blue-purple color. Slowly, very slowly, extended his hand toward her, not reaching for her, just showing her, palm up, an offering of trust. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm okay, it's just a small cut, see, not bad." The woman tilted her head. Her large eyes studied his face, then his hand, then his face again. Her markings shifted through colors like she was thinking, processing. Minutes passed. His arm started to hurt from holding it up, but he didn't move. Then the woman did something that made everyone watching the security cameras gasp in shock. She reached out her hand, her clawed hand capable of tearing through metal. She held it above's injured hand, not touching, just hovering there. Her markings turned soft blue, the color had ever seen from her. "Yes," whispered. "It's okay, you're safe, I'm safe, we're both safe here." The woman pulled her hand back and retreated to her corner, but something fundamental had changed. Could feel it in the air. She had chosen to approach. She had shown concern. She had reached out without violence. They were speaking the same language now. Not words. Something deeper. The language of trust beginning to grow in soil where only fear had lived before. The next week changed everything. Spent every day in the cell, and the woman slowly came out of her shell like a flower opening to sunlight. She started responding to his voice. When he entered the cell, her markings would shift from red to orange, then to yellow. Colors of recognition. She knew him now. She knew he wasn't a threat. Began teaching her about gentle touch. He did it carefully, showing her on himself first. He would touch his own arm softly and say gentle in Korean. Then he would tap his arm harder and say rough, over and over, demonstrating the difference. The woman watched with intense focus. Her large eyes followed every movement. Noticed she was incredibly intelligent. She learned patterns faster than any species he had studied before. On day 14, she imitated him. She touched her own arm gently, then looked at. Her markings flashed blue and yellow together. "Yes," said smiling. "Gentle, that's right." The woman's markings pulsed brighter blue. Was that happiness? Pride? Made a note to study her color patterns more carefully. From that moment they developed their own language. The woman's markings became her words. Red meant fear or anger. Orange meant confusion or curiosity. Yellow meant attention or interest. Blue meant calm or safe. Purple seemed to be something like contentment. Green was rare, but when it appeared, thought it might be sadness. Taught her simple Korean words: yes, no, safe, danger, food, water. She couldn't make the sounds with her mouth, but her markings would flash specific colors in response. They were communicating. On day 17, the breakthrough came. Was sitting in his usual spot, reading aloud. The woman sat closer now, only 5 meters away. She held the tiger book in her hands, looking at the pictures whilst voice filled the cell. Paused to take a drink of water. His throat was always dry from talking so much. When he set the water bottle down, he noticed the woman staring at his hand. She made a sound, not a growl, a soft chirping noise like a question. "What is it?" asked gently. The woman pointed at his hand with one clawed finger. Then she held up her own hand, looking between them. Her markings flickered orange and blue together. Understood, she was comparing, looking at differences and similarities. "You want to see?" he asked. He held up his hand, palm out, fingers spread. The woman's markings pulsed rapidly. Orange, yellow, blue, orange again. She was excited but nervous. Slowly, giving her every chance to change her mind, extended his hand toward her. Not far, just a little. An invitation. The woman stared at his hand for a long time. Watched emotions play across her glowing markings like waves. Fear red, curiosity orange, safety blue, all mixing together. Then she moved. Her hand came up, shaking slightly. Her claws caught the light. Those same claws that had torn through metal and sent security teams running. Her fingertips touched his palm. The contact lasted 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds of gentle touch, fingertip to palm. But in those 3 seconds, felt the weight of years of pain and isolation lift just slightly from the woman's shoulders. Her markings flashed the blue he had ever seen. Pure, clear, beautiful blue. Then she pulled back, holding her hand to her chest like it was precious. She made that chirping sound again, softer this time. His eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. "You did so good," he said, his voice thick. So good." That touch opened a door. Over the next days, the woman became braver. She would reach out and touch his hand, his arm, the sleeve of his shirt, always gentle, always careful, always pulling back quickly but coming back again. Introduced her to on day 20. He prepared the woman first, showing her pictures of on his tablet. He explained with his simple words and hand gestures that was a friend. Safe. Helper. When entered the cell, the woman's markings flashed red immediately. She retreated to her corner, growling. "It's okay," said calmly. She's my friend, she helps people, she's safe." He demonstrated by letting examine a small cut on his arm, moved slowly, explaining everything she did. "This is a medical scanner. It doesn't hurt, see? I'm scanning's arm, it just takes information." The woman watched carefully. Her markings slowly shifted from red to orange, confusion giving way to curiosity. "Can she scan you too?" asked the woman, using their simple shared language of words and gestures. "It won't hurt, just information, yes or no." The woman's markings flickered between colors. Waited. He would never force this. It had to be her choice. Finally, the woman's markings settled on yellow. Attention. Interest. She held out her arm, but her body was tense, ready to pull back. Moved like she was approaching a nervous animal, she held up the scanner so the woman could see it. "This is the tool. I'm going to scan your arm now. Okay." The woman's markings pulsed blue once. Consent. Ran the scanner over the woman's arm. The woman's markings stayed blue, though could see her muscles trembling. She was terrified but trusting them anyway. When finished, she stepped back immediately. "All done, good, thank you." The woman's markings exploded into bright blue and purple mixed together. She looked at, her eyes wide. She had done it. She had let someone else touch her, and nothing bad had happened. Smiled at her. "You're very brave," he said. Examined the scan data later in the medical bay. Her face was grim when visited her. "These scars," said quietly, "they're not just old wounds, they're systematic. Someone did this to her over years. Torture, maybe, or punishment. The pattern is too regular to be accidental." His hands clenched into fists. "The ship data said her species was enslaved, used for labor. I think she escaped." "She's incredibly strong," said. "The scans show her muscle density is 3 times human normal. Her bones are reinforced with natural compounds. She was probably bred for heavy work. But that brain scan, she's brilliant. Her neural pathways are more complex than any species I've seen. They didn't just enslave her body. They wasted her mind." "Not anymore," said firmly. "She's free now, and she's going to heal." That night returned to the cell for the last time that day. The woman was waiting for him. She had been looking at the tiger book, but she set it down when he entered. She did something new. She patted the floor next to her, an invitation. His heart raced. She wanted him to sit close, not 20 meters away, not 5 meters, right next to her. He walked over slowly and sat down, leaving a small gap between them. Close but not touching. The woman's markings glowed soft purple. She picked up the tiger book and held it so both of them could see. She pointed at the tiger picture, then made a questioning chirp. "That's a tiger," said. "An animal from Earth, very strong, very beautiful." The woman touched the picture gently with one claw. Her markings shifted through colors, was starting to recognize as thoughtful. Then she pointed at herself and made another chirp. Understood, she was asking about herself. What was she? "I don't know your species name yet," admitted. "But I'd like to know your name. What do you call yourself?" The woman made a series of sounds, and her markings pulsed in a specific pattern. It wasn't quite a word could repeat, but he tried. He said, approximating the sound as best he could. The woman's markings flashed brilliant blue. She nodded, a gesture she had learned from watching him. "Yes." Repeated, committing it to memory. "My name is." Touched her chest, then pointed at him. Her markings pulsed in a new pattern. She was trying to say his name in her own way, through light and color. They sat together in comfortable silence, sharing the tiger book, speaking in their language of light and simple words. Outside the cell, the station crew watched in amazement. The untouchable alien woman had a name now, and she had chosen to trust. Was learning faster than anyone expected. Within 3 weeks, she understood basic Korean and could read emotions just from his voice. Within a month, she was learning Galactic Common, the language most species used across space. Worked with her every day now, providing medical treatment for the old scars and injuries. His body healed quickly once she allowed proper care, but the scars on her mind took longer. Moved his quarters to the room next to cell. The station commander had finally agreed to give more space and freedom. The cell walls came down, replaced with a comfortable living area. Could leave whenever she wanted, but she rarely did. The station was big and full of strange aliens. Too many possibilities for fear. She felt safe with, that was enough for now. One morning, was teaching about Earth when she suddenly asked a question that surprised him. Why? She said in careful Korean. Her voice was rough from not using it for so long, but the word was clear. Why what? Asked. Gestured at the space around them, at herself, at him. Why help me? Others hurt, you help. Why? Thought carefully about his answer. Because you needed help, because you were scared and alone, because everyone deserves kindness, that's what humans believe. At least that's what I believe. Markings shifted to deep purple. She touched her chest, then reached out and gently touched his hand. It was her way of saying thank you. Tell me about your people, said softly. Only if you want to. Was quiet for a long time. Her markings flickered through sad green colors. Finally she spoke. My people were free long ago. We had cities, art, music, then the hunters came. Her voice cracked. They took us, put us in chains. We were strong, so they made us work. Build things, move things. If we didn't work, they hurt us. His throat tightened. How long were you enslaved? Since I was small, many years. I don't remember being free. Looked at her hands. I only remember pain, work, chains. I thought all beings were like the hunters, cruel, taking. How did you escape? Asked. A ghost of something fierce crossed his face. I was loading a ship. I saw a chance. I fought, killed 3 hunters, took the ship, flew until it crashed here. Her markings flashed red for a moment, remembering. I thought you were hunters too, thought you would chain me again. Never, said firmly. You're free here, no chains, no pain, I promise. Markings turned bright blue. She believed him. That trust meant everything. But trust built during the day often crumbled at night. The nightmares came without warning. Woke to screaming. Screams tearing through the walls between their rooms. He jumped out of bed and ran to her door. It was unlocked. She had started leaving it unlocked 2 weeks ago, a sign of trust. He burst into her room and found backed into a corner, her markings flashing violent red. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't seeing the room. She was somewhere else, somewhere terrible. No, no chains, not again, please. She was screaming in her own language, mixed with broken Galactic Common. Called out, you're safe, you're on the station, no hunters here. But she didn't hear him. She was lost in the nightmare, reliving horrors couldn't imagine. He did something risky. He stepped closer. Listen to my voice, it's me, you know me, I'm your friend. He started speaking in Korean, using the same rhythm and tone he had used when first reading to her. The familiar pattern of words, the gentle sound that meant safety. Slowly, the eyes focused. She saw him. Recognition flickered across her face. She whispered, her whole body was shaking. Yes, I'm here, you're safe. It was a nightmare, just a nightmare. Markings shifted from red to orange to blue, cycling through emotions. Fear, confusion, then finally recognition of safety. But she was still shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Knew he was taking a huge risk, but he couldn't stand watching her suffer alone. Can I sit with you? He asked softly. Just sit right here. Markings flickered. She was fighting between years of conditioned fear and her growing trust in. Finally, she nodded once. Sat down next to her, his back against the same wall. He didn't touch her. He just sat there, close enough that she could feel his presence. "Tell me about the tiger book," he said calmly, starting to talk about something familiar and safe. "What was your favorite picture?" His breathing was still ragged, but she focused on his voice. The one with flowers, tiger sleeping in flowers." "Why do you like that one?" "Because the tiger looks peaceful, safe, not hunting, not fighting, just resting." "You can rest too, you're safe here." They sat in silence for a while, kept talking occasionally, filling the quiet with gentle words. Slowly, shaking stopped. Then she did something that made his breath catch. She leaned her head sideways until it rested against his shoulder, just barely touching, testing. Every instinct in his body screamed danger. Touch meant pain. Contact meant chains. But his shoulder was warm and solid, and he didn't move to grab her or hurt her. "Is this okay?" asked very quietly. His markings pulsed soft purple. "Yes." Moved very, very slowly. He lifted his arm and gently placed it around shoulders. She tensed immediately. "I've got you," whispered. "Just holding you, nothing else, you're safe." His breathing hitched. She was terrified, but she didn't pull away. She let his arms stay there, let his warmth seep into her cold, shaking body. "Feel my heartbeat," said. "Feel how steady it is. I'm calm, you're safe, nothing bad will happen." Could feel it, the steady thump-thump of his heart against her side. It was so different from the rapid, violent heartbeats of the hunters. This was calm, peaceful, protective. Her marking slowly shifted from blue to purple, from safe to content. She leaned into him a little more, just a little. They sat like that for an hour, didn't move except to breathe, slowly relaxed, her body losing its rigid tension. The nightmare faded, the fear faded. There was only warmth and safety and steady heartbeat. "Thank you," finally whispered. "Always," replied. From that night forward, when the nightmares came, was there, and each time allowed a little more contact, a hand held, an arm around her shoulders, eventually both arms holding her while she cried out years of pain. She was learning what humans had known all along. Touch didn't have to mean pain. Arms didn't have to mean chains. Closeness didn't have to mean danger. Sometimes touch meant healing. Weeks passed, started exploring the station with beside her. She met other crew members. Some were kind, some were nervous. She didn't mind. She had, and that was enough. She even started helping with research. Her intelligence was remarkable. She understood complex problems that took other scientists days to solve. She offered insights into alien technology that amazed everyone. But the best moments were still the quiet ones. Sitting with, reading books together, walking through the observation deck, watching stars together, learning that the universe held kindness as well as cruelty. One evening asked a question. "Are all humans like you?" Considered this. No, some humans are cruel, some are kind, some are in between, just like all species. But I think most humans try to be good, try to help when they can. Your species is small, weak compared to mine, but you have something we lost. What's that? Smarkings glowed warm purple. Hope. You have hope. You believed I could heal when no one else did, even when I didn't believe it myself. Smiled. That's what makes us human, I think. We believe in second chances, in healing, in the possibility that things can get better. Reached out and took his hand, not hesitant anymore, confident. "Thank you for teaching me hope." That night, she slept without nightmares for the first time in years. 3 months after arrived at Horizon's edge, everything changed again. The station received a distress signal from a ship drifting near the moon's orbit. When the rescue team brought it in, they found 3 more aliens of species inside. All 3 were in the same feral state had been in, terrified, violent, broken. Called an emergency meeting, and both attended. "We need your help," said, looking at. "These are your people. We don't know how to help them without your knowledge." Markings flickered through many colors. Fear, sadness, determination. She looked at. "I want to help," she said in careful Korean. "But I'm scared. What if they don't trust me? What if seeing me free makes them angry?" Took her hand. "They need to see you. They need to see that one of their own kind escaped and survived and healed. You can give them hope just like you found hope." Stood up, her markings settling into brave blue. "I'll do it for my people." The three new arrivals were being kept in separate containment cells. They were all smaller than, younger maybe. Their markings flashed constant angry red. When anyone approached, they attacked with desperate fury. Stood with outside the first cell. Inside was a male, his body covered in fresh wounds from his escape. His eyes were wild with fear and rage. "Let me try alone first," said. "My people have a saying in our old language. One freed bird calls others home. Maybe he needs to see me before he can see hope." Nodded. "I'll be right here watching. If you need me, just signal." Entered the cell. The male immediately backed into a corner, snarling. His markings blazed red like fire. Sat down on the floor, exactly like had done for her months ago. She didn't look directly at the male. She started speaking in her own language, words she hadn't used in years. "Brother, I was like you, afraid, hurt, broken by the hunters. I thought all beings wanted to hurt me. I was wrong." The male's snarling quieted slightly. His markings flickered to orange. Confusion. Was speaking his language, was like him. "See my scars," showed him her arms. "The hunters did this. Years of chains and pain. I escaped just like you. I crashed on this moon. And these beings here, they didn't hurt me. They helped me heal." The male made a sound, a question in their shared language. "I know it's hard to believe," said gently. "I didn't believe it either. But there is one human, one small weak human who showed me that not everyone is cruel. He taught me patience, kindness, hope." She gestured toward the glass where stood watching. The male looked at, his markings cycling rapidly through colors. "He sits with me when I have nightmares," continued. "He taught me that touch can be gentle, that help can be real, that freedom is possible." His markings glowed bright blue and purple, peace and contentment. The male stared at her colors. In their species, markings didn't lie. She was truly at peace, truly safe. The male's own markings shifted slowly from red to orange, fear to curiosity. It took 3 days, but eventually the male let approach him. When he saw her touch hand without fear, when he saw touch her shoulder gently and her markings glow with happiness, something broke inside him. He started to believe. The process repeated with the other two, a female and another male. Worked with each one, showing them through her actions and her markings that healing was possible. That humans, these strange small beings, could be trusted. Helped by being exactly what he had been for, patient, gentle, constant. He brought food. He read aloud in Korean. He demonstrated kindness over and over until all three began to understand. Within 2 weeks, all three were starting to heal. Not as quickly as had, but they were improving. They learned basic words. They allowed medical treatment. They started to trust. The station became a haven for species. Word spread through underground networks that escaped slaves used. More ships arrived. More survivors. Each one broken and terrified. Each one healed by seeing living free and happy. Became a bridge between her people and the humans. She translated not just words but emotions, concepts, fears. She showed her people that not all species were hunters. Some were helpers. The station crew started calling it the effect. Impossible situations became possible when approached with patience and genuine kindness. But the nightmares still came sometimes. Even after all the healing, trauma left deep marks. One night, 2 months after the other survivors arrived, woke screaming. Rushed to her room, but this time it was worse. She was reliving something terrible, her markings flashing between red and black, a color had never seen before. He called out, but she couldn't hear him. She was backed against the wall, her claws extended, her whole body rigid with remembered terror. Made a decision. He walked straight to her, ignoring the danger. He knelt down in front of her and very gently took her hands in his. "Come back to me. You're safe. I'm here is here." His eyes focused on him. She saw kneeling before her, holding her dangerous claws in his bare hands. She could kill him so easily, but he wasn't afraid. He trusted her completely. "I've got you," said softly. "Whatever you're seeing, it's not real anymore. This is real, me, you, safe together." His whole body was shaking. Tears ran down her face, an expression of sadness she had learned from humans. Her markings flickered wildly. "I can't forget," she whispered. "I try, but I can't forget the pain, the chains, all of it." "You don't have to forget," said. "The past is part of you, but it doesn't own you anymore. You're free, you're here with me, you're safe." Something broke inside. All the pain, all the years of holding herself together through sheer will, it all came crashing down. She fell forward and caught her, wrapping his arms around her as she sobbed. Her powerful body that had broken metal and fought off security teams, it trembled like a leaf in his arms. But he held her steady. He held her while she cried years of tears. He whispered gentle words in Korean. He stroked her hair carefully, showing her that touch could comfort instead of hurt. "I'm here," he kept saying. "I'm not going anywhere. You're safe, always safe." They stayed like that for hours, cried until she had no tears left. Then she just rested in his arms, exhausted but somehow lighter. The nightmare had passed. The fear had broken and drained away. When she finally pulled back to look at, her markings were the softest purple he had ever seen. "Stay," she asked quietly. "Tonight I don't want to be alone." "Of course," said. He moved to the couch in her room but stopped him. She gestured to the sleeping area, large enough for two. Understood what she was asking. The ultimate trust, to sleep beside someone, to be vulnerable in the deepest way possible. "Are you sure?" he asked. His markings pulsed bright blue. Yes, she was sure. They lay down together and rested her head on his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, that steady rhythm that had become her anchor to safety. She felt his arm around her, gentle and protective. For the first time since her capture as a child, felt completely safe. No nightmares could touch her here. No memories could hurt her. There was only warmth and the sound of his breathing and the knowledge that she was free. Her markings settled into deep, peaceful purple. Her eyes closed. Her breathing evened out. She slept. And as the station's night shift crew made their rounds, they passed by his quarters and saw something beautiful through the window. The alien woman who had destroyed containment cells and terrified trained soldiers now slept gently in the arms of a human man. News of healing spread across the galaxy, not as a story of human dominance or superiority, but as a story of hope, of patience, of the power of gentle kindness in a universe that often forgot such things existed. Other stations reached out, asking for advice on helping traumatized refugees. The protocol was born: patience, consistency, choice, and above all, genuine compassion. As people started to find each other again, they built a community on Horizon's edge, free, healing, learning to live without fear. And at the center of it all was a simple truth that had always known, but the galaxy was just learning. Sometimes the greatest strength isn't power or weapons or force. Sometimes the greatest strength is the patience to sit with someone's pain until they're ready to heal. The courage to reach out a gentle hand to someone who has only known cruelty. The hope to believe that things can get better, even when all evidence says otherwise. That's what made humans special, not their technology or their combat skills, their humanity. Learned this truth through his actions, and through her, the galaxy learned it too. Some nights still had nightmares, but now she had beside her, his steady heartbeat reminding her that she was safe. She had her people around her, all of them healing together. She had hope for a future she never thought possible. She was free and she was home. Not a home made of walls and stations, but a home made of trust and kindness and gentle hands that held without hurting. The best kind of home there was.